You're listening to the Blacktop Banter podcast, the premier podcast in the asphalt industry, made for contractors with contractors.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Blacktop Banter. So I know that you guys see me out and about and traveling and attending different things and doing different things, and I hope that your anticipation for who I'm going to have as guests builds up like mine does, because we have these guests that we know from the asphalt industry who have been here, who have time-tested knowledge, who bring that information to you guys, and then I'm able to bring from my life experiences people from outside that industry who can also help us in life, in business, in our dreams, and our motivation to keep going, family, relationships, everything. And I was very, very fortunate recently to attend a event for the Dubuque Chamber of Commerce with Dubuque Asphalt Maintenance, one of my companies, and it was fantastic. There were all types of different speakers and whatnot, but I found myself in the lunchroom where we had lunch, and there was a speaker in the beginning, so I was like, well, I'm just going to stay in here because I know lunch is going to be served close by, and I'll listen to this speaker first. And we had our admin, Kyla, there. She was with me as well. And she's like, hey, this guy's also delivering the keynote later. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was absolutely amazed, first of all, that we had such a quality speaker in a local little small Chamber of Commerce event there in Dubuque, and that I didn't even leave the room. I just went right back in there for the keynote from Harvie Herrington. So Harvey joins us today. Harvey is a former professional football player, business owner, and public speaker. His life goal is to plant seeds of dreams and goals in every person he comes in contact with. One of the quotes from his LinkedIn page is, "You should think about your dreams all the time, enough that it makes your stomach hurt. Everyone should have this burn, this desire to be more, to do more. It should and can overwhelm you. It will become your power, your light, and your energy. Knowing why you're here makes you a light that inspires others around you to do and want more. You're not born just to live. You're born to create, inspire, and help make this world a better place. You were born for greatness. We all are. Sometimes you just need a little push in the right direction." Now you guys know why I brought him here. That's the kind of stuff I talk about and you guys hear all the time. Harvey, how you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm fantastic. How are you?
Doing very, very good. Thank you so much for joining me. I know it's Christmas break and you're on vacation. I just got back from vacation, but we always find time to make these types of things work. I appreciate you taking time for us today.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And like I said earlier, forgive me if you hear some kids banging on the wall or something. I've tried to get away from all of them, but it's vacation time, so I'm excited to do this with you.
Wait, you mean you're a real person?
I'm a real person.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good, because I think we got real people listening and real people watching. So Harvey is an author and a motivational speaker. He also works with a couple groups, Trio and Upward Bound group, and I've been able to follow along since then, and I really get an appreciation for Harvey's repertoire. If you follow his LinkedIn page, he's done a lot, owned businesses and whatnot, as I spoke about before, and kind of went through the full gamut. So Harvey, can you tell us a little bit about your start and your upbringing in this world? And I think it's going to be fantastic because it's such a contrast to where you have landed now at this stage in life, and of course the journey to the NFL and whatnot. But tell us a little bit about your start and upbringing.
Let's start with the upbringing. So we'll start from the beginning, and I'll keep it as short as I can. I was born in Mississippi, a southern boy. Lived there until the end of second grade. Then my mom got a burner tummy and decided to move north to Chicago. So I grew up on the south suburb of Chicago, went to Eisenhower High School, graduated from there, went to community college, playing football, of course. From community college, I went to Western Illinois University. So I tell people I've got the best of both worlds, southern country, city boy, Illinois country. Now I'm kind of in the midst of between that, but so graduated college, went to the NFL. I played professional football for 8 years altogether. Coached high school football for 18 years. Business owner, as you said, I'm very entrepreneur at spirit. I love being the boss and creating my own way through things like that. 10 years ago, I decided to just uproot my wife, sell our businesses, uproot my wife, my life, sell our businesses, take our kids out of school and move. So I went on this journey to be a motivational speaker. My heart, because of how I grew up, and I'm leaving a lot of that out, but my heart are with kids, youth. I work in the professional world because that's where the money is, but my heart is with youth. You mentioned Trio and Upward Bounds, first generation student programs, college students. I'm a first generation. I am still to date in my first family, so not my immediate family today, but my mom and dad and siblings. I'm the only kid to graduate. I'm the only one to graduate high school, college diploma, all of that good stuff. I went on this journey to talk to the 5-year-old, 11-year-old, 16-year-old, 21-year-old me in the audiences when I talk to students. And then, lo and behold, I figured out that message also resonates with adults too. So, in a nutshell, I've lived every aspect of what I think life looks like for people. Country, city, country. I grew up very poor. I'll just put that out there too. And broken family, come from a broken home, and all of those crappy things that some people have to deal with in life. What I saw is I made it through it, and a lot of my peers and friends didn't, and I didn't know why, because I never felt like I was worth anything growing up. Once I reached a certain age to figure out why me, how me, and start processing those things. And as I worked on them and studied and researched things, it became apparent. It was my why. It was my calling, my purpose, which I didn't know it. No one ever told me, but it was football. And you're talking to, I'm 6'3", 280 now. I played at the heaviest, about 315, somewhere up in there. So I'm formerly a really big guy, going back down to what I would call what should be a normal size, but I should have never been this big. My parents are small, my grandparents are small. Football did it all for me when it comes to growing and moving on. I never dreamt of being a professional football player. I just wanted to be a high school football player like my dad. So I figured out what got me through all of these things, and it became that why for me. So that was it in a nutshell.
Well, I'm gonna dissect it a little bit because I was fortunate enough to hear you tell the whole thing, and I'm gonna pick out a couple of different spots in there. There's two things that amazed me when you were giving your story, because it's contrary to what we hear most motivational people say when they speak, and that is that being a professional football player wasn't your goal. Like that wasn't what you did it for. You wanted to be a high school football player. And that was the one thing. The part of your story that I loved was when you mentioned why you started playing football. Can you dive into that a little bit? Because I think you're going to tell a lot better than I can.
Absolutely. So, typical American story. My mom and dad got married out of high school, which was a good thing. Then they had me. They had me at 20. They were divorced by 21. Such a bad, horrific divorce. My dad left. Didn't want anything to do with my mom and me, his firstborn son, firstborn child. And as a kid, it was heartbreaking. Now, I can't remember that piece of it because I was only a year old, if that. But I remember the journey of years after that of trying to have a relationship with a man that wanted nothing to do with me. Later on, I found out why, and I still don't accept that, but I found out why and how it broke him down so much. But so I wanted, every young man needs a father in his life. Every young girl needs a father in their life. I needed a man in my life to teach me things. And here's the great thing about it, and the painful thing about it. I have an 11-year-old boy. He's our baby. Every time every day I'm in his life. Every moment I'm in his life. I'm teaching, I'm loving, I'm caring. But it's heartbreaking for me to know that I didn't have any of that.
Yes.
And I wanted that so bad as a kid. I knew I wanted it. And then so my mom told the story about my dad, this high school football player. Same story. It never changed, so I knew it was a true story about how great he was. And I'll give you that real quick because it's in my head. She talked about one specific game. He's walking off the field. She runs up to him, puts her hands around his waist. He puts her hand over her shoulder, and I can picture this, And
Yep.
she's like, he was covered in blood, and she was like, "Oh, honey, are you okay? Are you all right?" And he looked down. Now I didn't know my dad's voice. He looked down at her. I see the silhouette of this playing out all the time. And he said, "Oh, baby, that wasn't me. It was the guy I played. I handled business all night." So
Yeah.
here you have this little boy, and this is the only positive thing my mom ever said about my dad. I see this monster of a man, and that's who I wanted to become. This great high school football player that played in this game like my dad. And that was my journey. I knew I would say I can go back as far as 3 or 4 years old and remember her telling that story. And I knew I was going to play high school football. And I
Yeah.
went through some things along that journey, a lot of bad things, but I knew I was going to play football. And that's what started. It was like a little seed planted in me that grew to play. That's where it stopped. That's where it was, and that's where it stopped. I didn't see anything. I didn't see sophomore, junior, senior, community college.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that.
Yeah, it's amazing because when you tell your story, it's like certain people were implanted in your journey along the way that spoke a little bit more distance for you, and then I felt like you have this. I don't want to say a blind faith, but you have this faith of just like, okay, then that's what I'll do. Okay, then that's what I'll do. And those guys were like, they were like, "Harvey, if you work a little harder, you could probably make it to college." And Harvey worked a little harder and made it to college. Then when you're at college, they're like, "Hey, Harvey, you're doing really good. You work a little harder, you're gonna have some NFL scouts." Right? Like that part of it was like, for me, people spend so much time thinking about what their life is going to look like during those years, and so far down the line that this picture gets painted where, contrary to most stories, if people don't do that, they just wander aimlessly through life, where yours didn't. It was a blank canvas, and somebody would poke a dot, and you would just connect your journey to that dot and do what it took to get there. And it just happened along the whole way, right?
Yeah, I was living one day at a time. I can tell you about the 4 or 5 guys. My PE teacher comes to me my junior year. He sits next to me. I'm just chilling. And Mick Snyder, coolest cat you'd ever meet in your life. He was in a band and PE teacher. And he sits next to me and he said, "Harvey, I was at the Bears camp and I saw Richard Dent." And he said, "You're already his height. All you got to do is grow into a body that you have and you can be just as good." He got up and walked away. We never talked about it ever again. It was a seed. No one had ever planted that seed. Then my senior year rolls around. We got a new principal that was his alma mater was Carthage College up in Wisconsin, and he saw me play. He said, "You can go to college, kid." I wasn't thinking about college. He said, "You can go to college, and I'm gonna get you into my college." Thank God. Here, you'll never hear this again. I wasn't a good student. Thank God I wasn't, because I wouldn't be here today if I'd gone to that college. So I ended up having to go to community college. My college coach there, I'm there playing, just thinking I'm going to play for 2 years and it's over. I started getting letters at the end of my freshman year. You just said it. And I went to him. I said, "Hey, I got these colleges." He said, "You're actually pretty good, Harvey." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, next year you're going to be able to go wherever you want on a full ride." I said, "What do I do?" He said, "Put your head down, work out, and stay out of trouble. Don't get in trouble."
That's crazy.
That led me to 8 scholarship offers, and I chose number 7 on the list versus the top ones because of the coaches that were at Western. I go there. The same story happens at the end of my junior year. I come home to my apartment. There's a letter there with an orange helmet on it. And I said, I take it back to Coach Ball. I said, "Coach," he said, "Harvey, you're pretty good." And I asked the same thing. He said, I said, "What do I do?" "Keep working hard, keep your head down." Before I know it, I started getting letters from most of the NFL teams. So I didn't envision, I teach this because I didn't know it, but if you know it, I could have made even less mistakes on my journey.
True.
So that's why I start sharing this and teaching about your why. If your passion, I love football so much. It started with me wanting to be like my dad. Then I fell in love with football, and it pulled me through this when I had no idea where I was going. Zero. I just trekked through it.
Well, that's kind of what I want to ask you about before we get into it too deep. Is I gave you the questions in order, but I'm going to flip flop them because of where we got in the conversation. But how important is it to find your why? I mean, I feel like the majority, and I don't want to sound like that, but I feel like the majority of people don't even think about that. They don't even think about their why. They feel like they went to school, they're into a hamster wheel, and they have no why or no reason to get there. And your story resonated with me so much because it amazed me so much because it was similar to everybody else's up to that point. And they didn't. If most people settle for, I'm going to work at the factory and get a job here in town and buy a house here in town, that's the trajectory it would have went if that's what they would have envisioned and done. Where yours was a blank slate, and it took just a couple people pinning a little bit further before your thought got to, what am I going to do with my life? They just kept tugging you along there. And Harvey, you made it. You became a professional football player of somebody who didn't think that they were going to be a professional football player. So once you started on that journey and found your why, even for the moment, what came from pursuing that?
Here's what I'll say. The first thing I learned how to handle failure along that journey. So my first NFL shot was the Indianapolis Colts. I'm on. I was told I was going to make the team even in rookie camp because of my speed and third down pass rusher. I'm there. I'm at practice. I'm going through it. Everything's great. The world's great. I'm getting ready to save my family. That whole typical story. And at the end of practice one day, something popped in my back so bad I couldn't walk. Just a fluke incident. We were doing what's called a karaoke. It was cool downs. They took me to all kinds of specialists, and I literally was pushed around in a wheelchair. Back was gone. When your back completely goes out, your stomach stops working. So I couldn't even sit up. And I'm doomed. I'm mentally doomed out of it. So lo and behold, I couldn't pass any physicals. I get released from the Colts. I thought my life was over. I went back to my coach. People in your life that you should listen to. I said, what do I do? He's like, you have to graduate. Yeah. So I started back school. Well, I went to the gym once. I'm cutting this story really short, but literally it took me 3 weeks before I can get off the floor. I'm walking to class. I pass by the gym. I smell the weight room. It pulls me into it. I start working out. I'm like, I can't let it go. And I called my agent. I was like, what else can I do? I know. So I played arena football. If you guys ever heard of Kurt Warner, we mirrored each other. We ended up playing in Iowa Barnstormers. And he went to the Green Bay first. I went to the Colts, then we went to the Barnstormers. Played in Arena Bowl 10 there. He went to St. Louis. I got traded to 2 different arena teams. I played arena football for 4 years. Then I got to work out with the Bears. Went to the Bears. Killed it there, but I kept getting hurt, and I kept wondering, why am I getting hurt? And I found out later what was going on. I actually have a rare disease I didn't realize I had. My daughter has it. That's how I found out. And all of those injuries, but I never gave up. And again, I had to process this. I just didn't want anything else but to be a part of that. That's all I wanted. That's the only thing that filled my spirit. And so I failed a lot. And when I started processing it, it told me, I began to realize I'm not afraid to fail. I've been through it. I know what to do. Just get up and keep moving because I know what I want. That's the biggest thing is if you can overcome that wall, which most Americans, I'm not going to say people in the rest of the world because they do, most Americans, especially if they don't know what they're working for. Yeah. I felt over and over and over and over and over again until I said, I don't give a rat's. I'm going to knock on it. I heard a speaker say, I will knock on as many doors as I can because somebody's going to answer. And I adopted that motto. And it is, I will tell you, it has taught me so much. I've had cancer. I've had both of my shoulders replaced, all the football stuff. I've had my right lung shut down from a thing called histoplasmosis. And I got to throw this in there real quick, and I'm not preaching to anybody. My faith also makes a world of a difference for me.
Yes.
But this journey and this power of knowing what it is that you want, and it could be, and I've learned, here's what I've learned during speaking at schools, speaking in small town communities. A dream could be to work at a certain plant.
Bingo.
But here's the difference, though. You can go into that plant and work there for 20 years and be happy, but you can also go in that plant in the mindset of, how high can I go up in this plant? How high can I move? If you set your ceiling low enough, you're going to hit it.
Yeah.
If you learn to set your ceiling high, there's room for growth in there. Those are the things that I've learned of why that is so important, because we are destined to fail. You can't have success without failure.
True.
You can't.
True.
Even if you're born rich, you cannot have success without failure. It's a part of it. But I even with adults, when I say how many people are afraid to fail, I said, be honest with me. And by just saying that, they'll raise their hands. I was like, it's just something you haven't been taught.
Yeah.
But I think people need that pain to go through, but they just need something to help them through it. If you don't have anything to help them through it, you kind of mentioned it too. You're in a what did you call it,
a hamster wheel.
A hamster wheel. I say, what I tell people, if you get knocked down, even if you get back up, if you don't know where you're going, you're just walking around in a circle. And we're not built to stay moving around in that circle. We're built as humans to say, I'm gonna hold on to what I got and just be quiet.
Yeah.
And none of us should. It's what you're doing. It's so insightful. It's so enlightening. There's so much energy. How many people are willing to do this, what we're doing between Christmas and New Year's? You know,
very few, I would think.
To see that on your calendar, and I was like, I'm going to do it right there in that time, because he does this. Most people, they want it off. If you love what you do, you are never at work, ever.
Yep. Yeah. I think it resonates with me when you speak about it in that regard of people, depending on where they put their ceiling, right? You and I haven't got to share this with you very much, but we have a very similar upbringing. Same thing, broken home, grew up poor, ended up, the only thing I ever wanted to be was the same thing you wanted to be, you wanted to be a dad and to be there and to have a dad that was there for that. My son is 12, going to be 13. It is absolutely the most joyful thing I get to spend my time with him that I do. He comes to work with me. We would just come back from vacation. I'm getting to watch him grow up. He's becoming his own annoying little jerk self, which is just great for a dad to deal with. He's trying me now, like he's getting a little muscular, so he's like trying to bring it. And I'm having to bring it a little harder to keep him in check. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. But, I wanted that same thing. And I'm getting that and receiving that finally, but I resonate with you in the fact that I knew it back then that I wanted it, and it has a double-edged sword. I hope and I believe that he will appreciate how much I'm around, because it's a rarity nowadays, which is sad, but and how much it's going to impact his life. The other aspect of that is I was very similar in your regard, where you were, hey, I just want to play high school football. Mine was, I want that house, I want a family, I want to correct what was wrong in my family tree and get to that point. I achieved that early, and then I had zero direction. And to be honest with you, I spent a couple years just drinking and enjoying the lap of luxury that I had, which really wasn't that much luxury, but it was more than what I had growing up and was my only goal. Once that was unsatisfactory for me, and I realized I had a long life ahead of me, and that all I was going to do is go to work, make Blacktop black, come home, pay bills, wake up, and do that again. I didn't view that as a life I was going to be very proud of, and a journey that I wasn't going to be happy with. But also I've thought about my son. Like, I wanted to be more for him, right, as I was. And I think that me being around certain people and being motivated and inspired gave me hope, which you do very well, especially through the groups that you help out. And sometimes that's all I needed. And there was no one around locally for me to do that with. I found that in other people when I plugged myself into different groups of people, and started to listen to people speak, like yourself and other people speak. It inspires you and gives you hope and faith that, hey, something more is going to happen. So can you talk a little bit about that and what you've experienced with these groups that you speak to, and motivating them and giving them a little bit of hope and direction, and what it's done.
Can I shift that just a little bit? I've got a story
Absolutely.
I want to share with you.
Please.
So I'm speaking at a Walmart.
You're a fantastic storyteller too, Harvey. I will give you that. You tell stories very well. If I could do anything, it would just listen to Harvey tell stories, pretty much. That was my favorite part of what you do. So as many stories as you want to tell, we have all the time in the world. Please tell me the story about the Walmart.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for it.
Walmart asked me to come speak to, I can't even tell you one because they're so huge, like Section 4 somewhere. There's a bunch of Walmart. They were executives, but the transport part of Walmart. So I'm like, I said, but like, you guys watch my stuff, right? I can't come teach you how to be better at Walmart. And they was like, no, we love your message. So I go there and I'm talking, and I'm going to tell you this because you made me think of it, about what a pain that you and I share with millions and millions of people of not having that parent or dad, that a hole that's in our heart. And I don't know if you can attest to it, but it's never filled. It's an empty hole. And I'm sharing the story about my dad, and someone asked, it's like, how have you dealt with it? And again, I talked about my faith a little bit. And I said, I put everything into being the best dad that I can. And as a grown adult, I eventually had to forgive them, that my dad and my mom. I'm not even sharing the whole story with you, because I was carrying around the 800-pound gorilla of the pain that I allowed them to put on me.
Yes.
And I said I had to forgive them, but then at the same time I had to tell them, I don't want to be around to talk to you.
It's tough.
I said I will tell you this, I will take care of you when you can't take care of yourself, but you give me so much pain and so much grief that it's affecting my life as a father and a husband. So I had to turn them loose. And I said it was the most freeing thing, because I have forgiven them, but I didn't forgive them for them. I forgave them for me.
That's key.
It hurts talking about it, but it still has given me a sense of peace as an adult. I can't tell kids that. I can't tell kids that because they still live under the roof of some parent. But with adults, and this lady comes up to me and she said, I so needed to hear that, because I feel the same way about my parents and I can't handle it. Because we're still kids underneath our parents.
Oh yeah.
We turn the kids the minute we're around our parents, because we want exactly what you're giving your son, exactly what I'm giving my kids, and we are never going to get that from them, and it hurts so much. And you've got to learn how to let that pain go. And that's one of the biggest things. When as I was done at that convention at Walmart, I'm like, did this make any difference? And I had this lady come up and tell me, and about 3 or 4 other people, and of course people reach out, that's one of the biggest things, is I'm okay with talking about my pain, because I know there's millions that have it. And also teaching them about their gift. Some people get jobs, careers that they don't necessarily love, but the money's so good they know they got to do it. But that still doesn't mean you don't go searching for your why. That happiness. We all deserve a little bit of peace, that hobby or whatever it is on the side. And it can't be for our kids, because they're going to leave our house. It needs to be partially for our spouse, but our spouses are also responsible for their own happiness. It's got to be a selfish thing. And people don't like that, but you have to be selfish enough to take care of yourself, to keep your cup full. If your cup ain't full, you ain't ever going to be able to help anybody else. So that message there going out is the biggest thing I feel that I give. And I can see it in a person's face when they get it.
In my opinion, Dynapac CC900G roller is the best roller on the market for driveway and small parking lot paving contractors. The seismic technology in these rollers is unbeatable for the smoothness and compaction they provide. Take my word for it, or visit Dynapac.com to find a dealer near you.
Hey Blacktop Banter fans, this is Michael with Aquafault. Aquafault is the only permanent repair material for asphalt and concrete that uses water. And installation is simple. Just pour, add water, and tamp. It's that easy. An Aquafault repair can be open to traffic immediately and fully sealed within 24 hours. Visit aquafault.com to learn more.
I work closely with KM International to design what I believe is the best seal coating unit on the market. The Blacktop Banter Edition seal coating unit, available in both 550 and 700 gallon versions. Learn more about the unit by visiting kminternational.com.
Quick startups, fume-free, automatic agitator shutoff, a splash-proof lid, and pumping on demand, these features are essential for any serious asphalt maintenance contractor. Elevate your game with the Crafco SuperShot line of melters by visiting crafco.com today.
Hi contractors, it's Kyla from Wiscoat. We use Stencil Plus for all of our pavement marking stencils. You can save 10% on your stencil order by using code BB10 during checkout at stencilplus.com or by calling 877-372-6055.
In the past year, Jobber has been our CRM of choice at Wiscoat, and it's made our world exponentially better efficiency-wise. For our small seal coating company, it has helped build the solid foundation we can scale from. Jobber is now a sponsor of Blacktop Banter and helps bring this show to you. With this partnership, Jobber is offering an exclusive savings to BB listeners of 20% off for 6 months. To take advantage of this, find the Jobber link in the show description and get to improving your process today. Everybody takes everything at surface level now because they want to react, right? And especially on social media, you post something, somebody reacts without thinking and putting themselves in other people's shoes or completely thinking about what was said or what the context was. When you spoke of it the way that I think of it. You have to be selfish enough to let go of everyone, let go of that stuff, to forgive people for yourself so that you can make yourself whole. You have to do that first. And everybody else's responsibility for their journey in that regard is their responsibility. And that's where people want to leave it, but that's not why you're doing it, and that's not the outcome. When you do that, everybody else bears the fruit of that in your life or close to you in your relationship, right? Like, you're doing a selfish thing, but you're doing it for the byproduct of it is for an unselfish reason. I wanted to be free from what had happened to me so that my kids weren't brought onto that. It was a blank slate, right, where the future can grow versus it's intertwined with all these roots and these other things that hinder it and hold it back. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have to let go of not the only, but major parts of the family that I had ever known. But I knew that for mine to be corrected, I needed to. And that was the foundation for what you see here, for what Blacktop Banter has become and my businesses and things. So I think that that's a major key of your journey and your story. And to be honest with you, there's guys that go very far into their journey without ever doing that. And then they get to a point, guys and gals, and they get to a point where they can't figure out what the problem is. And it's the fact that they never made right with that before going on farther and farther. So do you have any insight on that, or can you speak on that at all?
Yeah, I will tell you, like I said, I'm an open book. I just started therapy for the first time ever a month ago, because even though I calmed that darkness down in my past, I still need to unpack it. And I'll tell you, going through what you and I have gone through and other people that can relate, it feels a little scary to unpack it. But one thing I've learned, let me share this is outside it. The second session, I learned right away that I thought my saving grace with my pain was my wife, because she knows it. And immediately I learned that I had your spouse needs to know everything about you, but you can't expect them to understand it if they didn't live it. You can't expect them to carry that burden if they didn't live it. And me giving that to someone that's not involved in my life, it's their job, it has changed me in the last 2 to 3 weeks to be able to dump that somewhere else, versus I've just put it. What we do is we lock it up and hide it.
Oh, for sure.
And the problem with that is something you're talking about. I've always lived. So our oldest is 18. I've always lived with the mindset is I have to protect my children from my past, because it's in the way I've heard people talk, the way I was treated. If we don't know that stuff, we continue to repeat that circle. over and over.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned it. You want your son to have a clean slate. So do I. I don't want my baggage that comes from my mother. It's really my mother more than my father, and that came from her mother. And I don't want that, so I had to learn to cut that off.
Yep.
Because my children don't deserve that baggage.
No.
Most people don't know that, though, Marvin. Most people are clueless that they just pass that crap on, especially where we come from. The way you talk, the way you think about people, the way you act, the way you think about how this world holds everything against you because you're poor and you come from this. That's baggage.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. And the way you perceive people in the world, it gives people justification to act a certain way, to do certain things in their mind, but justifiably for themselves, they don't have to do that, right? And that's kind of what I've come to clarity about. And with our similarities in our story and whatnot, I want that for people. I want them to realize that, but then also be able to understand there's a way to unpack it and make it right so that you can look at it. One of my biggest sad points is when I see people at taverns or bars, and when they walk in, the guy calls their name and they slide their beer or whatever drink they have to them because they know it. That means they're there a lot. And more than likely, if you're there a lot, it's because you're trying to numb something or dull something, because regular work days most of the time don't make you don't send you there. If there was a way for them to understand how to do it and do it healthily, it would help them out a bit. But you being here saying, hey man, I made it to the NFL, was a big old man, and worked very hard, and I go to therapy because I need to talk to somebody about this. It's the second time. I recorded 3 podcasts a day, Harvey. You're the third one. The second one was an in-person guy who we were just talking about the subject, and he's like, and he's built, believe me, he's a man's man, great earner, built in the gym, far better built than I will probably ever be. And he was like, guys, go to therapy.
Yeah.
Right? And it made me respond with, our brains were meant for survival situations. We were primal. We used to take care of our problems with clubs, back way then. We weren't meant, our brains haven't changed. They still release the same chemicals that still want to do the same things, but our situations are different. Our survival isn't necessarily here. It's in earning or doing whatever, and we can't unbox it the way that our primal being wants us to, and that's just tough it out and be a man and bury it. It don't work like that anymore. We've been
trained to carry pain with honor.
Yeah. Yes. That's the statement I was trying to make. Yes.
And not understand that it's not honorable. It's painful to you and everybody around you.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how our generation, the millennials carry a bit of it. Generation X carries a lot, and of course the boomers do. I'm tough. You can still be tough and still be vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah, I was telling that guy in that podcast, I said, dude, you're built, trust me, but I would much rather be wise than be tough. Like,
amen.
I was like, they ain't never going to take that from me. They can take my toughness and my body, but they ain't going to take my wisdom if I can help it, right? It's going to last a little bit longer, I would hope, but that's kind of where you resonate with. And I don't want to keep you very much longer. I know you're on vacation, and you've done so well and recited a lot of knowledge to us and our guests that are going to resonate with it well. But I would love to ask you, first of all, can I ask you to finish the story with your dad when you met him and being in the car to finish the football story? And then I'm going to ask you one last question, but I would love for you to finish the story for our listeners.
So my dad, I'll back up a little bit. My dad came back into my life when I was 25, and I'll share this because other people will relate to this and experience it. And he started reaching out through family member, and I didn't want anything to do with him. There's very few positive things my mom's ever said about him or to me in particular. And she called, she said, your dad's trying to reach. I was like, I don't want to talk to that dude. I'm grown. I'm 25. I'm good to go. And so she said, just hear him out. And so I did. And he called. First thing I said to him, I said, you must be dying. And he was like, what? I said, the only reason I ever expected to hear from you now is that you're dying and you're feeling sorry for yourself. He was like, no, he met a woman that has helped him change his life a little bit. So cool. And that deep down inside, this pain, I had to let that out because I was hurt. But deep down inside, it was my dad. It's my father. So I said, we could talk. And lo and behold, he came to see me, flew out to see me once or twice. He came to my wedding, his wife. So that was great. But I'm playing out in New Jersey, and I was like, I said, hey, I'm going to pay for you. I want you to come out. You're going to stay with me for 2 weeks. I wanted him to see what I had done that he had nothing to do with. So we're coming back. I don't know if it's week 1 or week 2. We're coming back in the car from practice. And he looked at me and said, hey, how'd you do all of this? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I know you didn't have a good life. How did you do this? And I told him the story about my mom telling me about him being a high school football player. And he was quiet, and I joke about it, just where he should have kept his mouth shut. But he was quiet, and I'm driving. We're on 3. I could tell you where we were coming from the Meadowlands, going back to our apartment. And he said, I don't know what your mom was talking about. I was a horrible high school football player. And I remember squeezing the steering wheel and thinking, Lord have mercy. I'm here. I've been through this, and it wasn't even a true story. He played football, but the blood and the game and that comment didn't. He said I kicked, and I wasn't very good at anything else. And I remember thinking, why in heaven's name did you share that with me? But he didn't know, even though I told him that's how, he didn't get it, that it was my driving force.
Yeah.
But truthfully, I think, I've never thought about this, I think it freed me from that journey of wanting to be, because I had long surpassed that man. Long surpassed whatever he did in life. You know, he never graduated high school.
Yeah.
So,
and then there's that recollection, Harvey, of like once that happened, and this is me putting myself in that position, obviously not knowing all the full details or how you feel, but that means Harvie Herrington did it on his own, right? Like that means an idea was there, but the idea wasn't real. Therefore, it was your will. It was your hard work and your determination, where Harvey did it on his own, which is exciting to me because you allowed yourself to be vulnerable during that time and not so proud that you didn't take insight from your coaches or other people to be like, hey, man, you can keep going. You can keep going. And yes, there might have been same thing I have. There's a chip there right on my shoulder where I'm like, my dad, which, I'll talk to you at some point about, was the same thing. I wanted to make him proud, right? I wanted to make this guy proud, and gave me up early on, which he was very young. Same situation. My dad was 17. I just wanted to be the best and be like, look what I can do. And you didn't want me, and maybe part of me is still doing that. I would imagine, but there came to a point where I realized that didn't even matter to him. Like, it don't matter what I do. It doesn't matter. When I made it to 25, like I told you, and made Sealer black and paid my bills or whatever, he's just as proud of me then as he is now. And I don't know that it matters at all to him, to be honest with you. The level didn't go up because I did more and achieved more. And I'll tell you this, all I knew growing up, he was a killer Packers fan and loved the Steelers. I got to speak at Steelers Stadium 2 years ago when it was still Heinz Field. I was the next day. They changed it over to whatever it is called now. So I was one of the last people to perform or speak at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. I sent my dad a picture of me there, and I got zero response. And I was like, I'm here at the Steelers Stadium. Look at me. And it didn't matter. Then it became, okay, my purpose and my why has to be bigger. Head pivoted and stopped looking behind me at who was there and in front of me. And there was a little kid named Eli who I had the blessing of producing with my wife. And since then, my ambition has came back. My direction has came back. My reason for what I do has been different, right? And guess what? I'm older than him. I'm going to be around until the end of my life, and hopefully he's still here. That's a lot better motivator for a lot longer time and a lot better why that's going to prolong what I do and give my life more fulfillment. And I think that you realizing that at that moment right now when we were just speaking is a key thing for guys to transition. But if we weren't candid and become comfortable talking with each other or a therapist or whoever, our brains wouldn't even think of those things, like that revelation that I had and that revelation that you had. So I think that us being speakers is not only for our audiences and people that we speak to, but I'm still speaking for myself, because I know the more I talk, the more I'm going to learn and the more it's going to help me on my journey, which, yes, is selfish, but guess what? The byproduct is it's helping the people around me as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. I want to ask you for one big last piece of advice, Harvey, and thank you so much for allowing me to talk about that, because
Absolutely.
I'm speaking it as it's coming out too. We have a coach here at Blacktop Banter and at Wiscote, and he made us do personality tests, and everybody on my team, they process things, they go away on their own in solitude and do it, and apparently I do it right now in the moment vocally. I talk it out as I go, which would explain this and the podcast, but me having to take that perception of myself with my team around, and I'm like, now I understand why you guys just want me to shut up all the time. Like, I don't even give them a chance to process anything. I just keep going through it. But yeah. I want to ask you an overarching piece of advice that you would give anybody, right? And this could be anybody. It don't have to be the woman coming up when you spoke at Walmart, or me on this end, or somebody in the crowd, but if there was one piece of advice that you could give people, because in general, people want their lives to improve, I would hope, at all aspects. I would hope they want their lives to improve. And there are general pieces of advice or lessons that are learned along the way that we as community share through storytelling or just through talking. And I was wondering what maybe one of those were from Harvie Herrington. You've seen the full spectrum, my friend, from top to bottom, which is an experience that not a lot of people get.
I've got two things.
Perfect.
One that touches what we just talked about that came to my heart to share. We want something sometimes from people that they are just not capable of giving. I want the love that I feel like I deserve from a man, my father, and a woman, my mother, that I know deep down that they don't know how to give it. And once I understood that, I don't expect it anymore. Some people don't know how to love because you have to dig deep. I ask a lot of questions. I've done a lot of research through family because they didn't get it. And some of us are born differently than most, and know that things aren't the way that they should be. So we tend to hunt for it, which causes us pain. So I just want to put that in there.
Yeah.
Some people do not know how to love. And then some show it differently, and you have to process that. But some don't show it at all. That's why he didn't respond to that of you speaking at Heinz.
Yeah.
He just didn't know how.
His dad passed away when he was 12.
Yeah.
Right, from a heart attack. Right.
That doesn't give him an excuse.
Right.
They just don't know how. That's
it's
the
a
only way I can
reason.
explain it.
Right.
Yeah. And the last thing, people deserve happiness and joy. And if you don't have that, you've got to muster up enough strength and energy and adopt the mentality that you're going to search for it through counseling, through reading, listening, and associating, because you deserve it. You need it. And it may not be from your spouse. It may not be from your kids. It may not be from your family. But you got to go search. I found it through reading, listening, and associating. I found it from an amazing woman that I'm married to. And then I found it, again, I'm not preaching to anybody. I don't push it on it, but I have to share. I found it through Christ. I am a Christ follower. I'm not a Christian. I'm not anything. I'm a Christ follower. Because when you grow, I'll give you theirs. I can't tell you where it is. I found out what love truly meant in that, in the New Testament. I don't have the memory to tell you what it is, but when it talked about what is love, and I realized that I had no idea what love meant, And then I went on a pursuit to find it. Oh my Lord, it just changed. And I'll say this, we're motivational speakers. Sometimes people think because we can give this information that we got it all. I ain't got it. Why do you think I'm going to a counselor? Why do you think I'm going to a counselor? I just choose to, on my down days, always be willing to crawl towards being up. I have crappy days, just like every other human. I've just learned to never stay down. Have my pity party and have an end time to it. I'm done being sad at this time, or when I wake up in the morning, it's going to be in a different mindset.
Yeah. Well, you make a choice. Yeah, you make a choice. I like that. Never stay down. Harvie Herrington. That's a quote we're going to pull from this one. Chris, if you're listening on producing, we're going to pull that one. That one's going to be in the clip. Harvie, thank you so much for joining me, my friend, and being candid with me in this conversation. It was better than I ever could have expected. Your transparency and your willingness to share is extremely valuable. And as great as you are as a football player, that may be your best attribute, my friend, is how open and how willing you are to allow me to ask questions and do things, because I think that's probably what your legacy is going to be, is the biggest impact, is if you keep sharing and doing your thing, because the more you're learning, the more it speaks to a broader band of people, and they need that. Our world needs that. We wouldn't have to tell people to be positive if everybody already was, right?
Right.
And we wouldn't have to tell people to find some hope and have faith if they didn't need it, right? So it's completely true. Harvey, where can we find you on social media? I know you're on Instagram and LinkedIn.
I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook. You see my name, it's a unique spelling. It's Harvie. Herrington is Herr, not A. HarvieHerrington.com is my website. There's tons of content out there. Getting ready to start in the new year, blasting some more, a lot of shorts, just motivational content. People end up seeing my health company too. I own a weight loss company that's all tied in together. But all the platforms. No YouTube. We're getting ready to redo YouTube. I got a page, but I haven't touched it in 3 years, so I got to start working on that again. You know how all of that is. My team consists of me. I've got an assistant, but she's just out there trying to help me get speaking engagements. But
perfect.
So yeah,
where can we see you speak at? Where are you going to be speaking at?
I am not, which is weird. I don't have anything in January.
Freedom.
It's weird. It's slow for me right now. January, normally I would be doing stuff 3rd, 4th, 5th, first weeks of school. So right now, speaking is not until, I think I got something in March.
Cool.
And my health business right now, we're going into busy season, so that's going to keep me busy.
Oh yeah, new year.
Pick up a few schools in between now and March. There's a company that I'll be speaking to that comes out of the same where you met me in Dubuque that I'll be doing this summer. But I've been so crazy busy, and then boom, we didn't look ahead to see the January's. But I take a 9-day vacation in January in the middle of it too.
Fantastic. So. That sounds like a dream. That's a gift.
Yeah,
perfect.
We've been doing it for 18 years. Our oldest kids. I traveled with 2 good friends. My bestie was my best man at my wedding. He and his wife and our family. So we've been doing this for 18 consecutive years.
Well,
this
congratulations.
was just a quick getaway this week.
I was going to say, consistency is your thing, man. I've come to find that out. Consistency is your thing. So if you're going to go on vacation, been doing it for teens of years, you're going to keep doing it, and it's much needed. Well, I really appreciate you joining us. We're looking forward to when we can see you next, and when we can have you on. We'll have to have you back again at some point here on Blacktop Banter. All right, so you've heard a great story today, and hopefully it resonates with you really, really well, and hopefully you've taken away some information and advice. The biggest thing is you are not alone. Obviously, we speak a lot about mental health and awareness in the construction industry. We have some of those resources here, but here's the thing. You're not on the journey alone. People have walked this path before. People are in front, and you have guys from our industry who are tough guys talking about going to therapy. You have NFL players, former NFL players talking about going to therapy. You have guys saying, hey, find guys, best friends to talk to, get that stuff off your chest and work it out. That's my big takeaway from today. Also, we supply a group here at Blacktop Banter, and it's a Blacktop Banter Success Group, which is contractors, entrepreneurs. We join together for 3 calls a month, usually a guest plus 2 other calls, and there's a 24/7 chat group, support group there for you as well. Whether you're wondering how to get your motor to start on your leaf blower, or whether you're dealing with marketing issues, or whether it's a family issue or whatever, we're always in there. We're always talking. We have become close comrades and friends. For more information on that, go to blacktopbanter.com/BBSG, or just send us a DM. We'll get that info to you. Also, be sure to sign up for our letter if you go to blacktopbanter.com, our newsletter. It has articles written by contractors for contractors in there. And as well, if you will go to missionimpact.com, I would greatly appreciate it. Mission Impact is a mission in Guatemala where we provide fuel-efficient stoves, clean water, and specialty wheelchairs to people who can't get around the rough terrain there in Guatemala. Please check that out. And as always, you can find us on social media at Blacktop Banter. For myself and for Harvie Herrington, who I'm going to let get back to vacation, this is Blacktop Banter. Harvey, thank you so much for joining us, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. As always, this is Blacktop Banter, and we speak asphalt. Peace. Hey, everybody. Marvin here from Blacktop Banter. And if you enjoy the podcast and what we've been bringing to the industry, you can support us through a one-time or recurring donation at blacktopbanter.com. There we have a support tab. You click that and choose your path from there. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do us a favor and leave a review there for us as well. As always, we speak asphalt, and thanks for your support.